You have an amazing IMDb. I think you've got been in some incredible projects. How do you go from being a junior Olympian to a stunt person to an actor? Like, what has that journey been like?
I grew up in Ohio, out in the cornfields. My high school was actually across the street from a cornfield, oddly enough. At first I started Kung Fu when I was about 8 years old. And, I really loved it. It was just something that a family friend taught, me when I went to Chinese school when I was younger. Um, but after learning from him for a while, then I went to another school and got a lot more into competition. And at some point, I ended up going to international tournament down in Florida, in Orlando, and ended up doing very well in the fighting circuit. So my father wanted to find a style that was more uh, it had more infrastructure to it, So since Taekwondo is an Olympic sport, he kind of figured that that would be a good avenue for me. So I started Taekwondo, got my black belt, and then started competing nationally. And yeah, and then that really got me into martial arts, and it really like solidified it to me as a person. It just made me one with it, and it's just been my entire life now. And then after I started, I did a junior Olympics and a national circuit like that, and went to college, and I fought on my college team that in San Diego. And I didn't think that I was going to do anything with my martial arts. I thought that it was just kind of going to just be something for my life. It was just a passion of mine.
Yeah.
It's kind of centered. But then, after I graduated from college, I went up to live in Los Angeles to work at a market research firm, and I just started doing extra work for fun. It's kind of just something that I could do on the side. But since I had this martial arts background and a pretty good competition record, people kept on like, anytime you're physical and inside of Hollywood, a lot of people are like, hey, what about stunts? Hey, what about stunts? Hey, so I eventually started, training with people and kind of meeting people here and there, and I was doing a lot of extra work and stand-in work. So I was on set, and I was learning about the industry. I didn't know that there was even really an industry. I thought it was kind of like winning the lottery. You walk
Mhm.
down the street and Spielberg does this and said, "Hey, here's $1 million. Meet me at the studio tomorrow." It was not really something that was in my purview of a possible career. And since I had studied economics in college and I wanted to be an entrepreneur, I realized that freelance lifestyle of a performer really is an entrepreneurship. You have your own company, and you have you are the product that you're selling, and then these studios will buy your image and your performance and then use it in their products. And once I started seeing that all the parallels with that, and I could mix my passion of martial arts along with my passion of my newfound passion of filmmaking and acting and stunts and all that kind of stuff. It just really kind of it just kind of meshed together very well, and it became something that I have just kind of decided to dedicate my life to. I've always been a writer, and being able to just do screenwriting and then have a piece of my writing turn into a film. And, it's something that is just so fulfilling that and also fulfilling not just for myself, but also that I would be able to change the perspective of an audience. I thought that was just fascinating to me. So and this is just now my life.
Definitely. And even though martial arts is a good background for stunt work, what kind of training do you keep on doing now in order to keep, physically fit and be able to adapt to whatever kind of stunt work you are, having to do for the next project?
I keep up with my martial arts. I don't take classes or anything, but I do train a lot on my own. It's very much. I think it was just growing up in Ohio. I spent a lot of the time alone anyway.
Mhm.
So I kind of got used to thinking about things a lot and meditating on different ideas and letting my imagination just run with stuff and to keep myself occupied. And so a lot of times it's the mental training is, I think, an aspect of martial arts that people don't really realize that
Yeah.
is a big portion of it, and I try to keep that up as much as possible. I meditate a lot, and I try to keep myself creative with things, but also, keeping abreast of all, what's going on in TV land and movies, like what's the newest type of ideas that people are coming up with on how to tell story. Because at the end of the day, with stunts and martial arts, I mean, there's really pretty much the human body can only move in so many ways, So, people that are thinking like, oh, I'm going to come up with this new innovative way is like, well, you still have two arms and you still have two legs, and you still can jump and you can roll and you can kick and twist and all that stuff. But like, a lot of that stuff has been on film already. So really, where does the innovation come from? It comes from story. And that's really what I realized, So, I while to stay physically fit, I work out a lot and, I make sure that I keep, my strength up with weights and calisthenics and aerobics and, and I stretch a lot. I do a lot of punches, kicks, and all this stuff that I do with martial arts. But a lot of it for me is also the mental game and also, thinking of innovative ways that you can tell a story with the physicality of something. And that's just with the stunt side, because I also have my separate acting career. And sometimes they overlap, it's like, not to say that, stunts is really just physical acting in a way, but it is different approaches. And, one's emotional and one is, more dialogue and storytelling versus the other one is physical and how to tell the story on that side of things. So, and I like to wear both hats, and I wear both hats on different sets and sometimes wear two hats on the same set. And, but that's just kind of how everything goes.
Definitely is. And when people hear martial arts, they think of the competitive, fighting, sparring against each other. But you've done both sparring and forms. How has forms helped you develop, the way you would either choreograph or perform a stunt?
Yeah, well, one thing that is interesting that I've always found for myself as well is that when you're a fighter, sometimes it can be difficult for martial artists that are fighters to translate it to film because you actually have to do a lot of the techniques incorrectly, right? Yeah. Now with the forms competition, when forms competition, for people to know, it's like, you have the planned out sequences, traditional planned out sequences that you present, and it's really just a straight performance. There's no opponent or anything like that. It's an imaginary opponent. And that does help with film just because it's a visual medium, right? And, all the time that you spend in the mirror trying to make sure like something that looks correctly and looks good, that will really translate onto film very well. But, one thing I will say is that when you see something on film, like more often than not, it's not really the correct way to do it in real life, right? Because if you think about it, when you're in a fight, your opponent is not supposed to see you coming. But on a film fight, the camera has to see you coming, right? So you don't want to do the same thing that you would with a regular opponent because then the camera won't see it, So, and then at that point, the audience isn't going to be in on what you do. And that's why it can be kind of difficult for sometimes to portray jujitsu on screen because, there are a lot of intricacies that are very practical and very technical that are very amazing too when you're in there and doing it. But then on camera, you can't see it because those technical things, like you can't, the audience isn't going to feel the guy's tendon feeling pressure or the joint feeling pressure, but that guy's going to feel it. So, having that translation of movement onto screen, I think is very important for anybody that's working in film with physicality to keep in mind, right? So, back to your question with the forms and film, it's with the forms, same kind of thing. You have like the people that are watching have to see what you're doing. So you spend a lot of time in the mirror to like kind of make sure that the angles are right and everything like that. And then that does translate very well to film because what's the camera going to see? It's going to see that nice straight leg. It's going to see those nice angles and those low stances and whatnot. So, it's obviously I think it's very good for performers to have some kind of like, sparring or fight experience, because it really gives you the practical ideas on how to do it. But then it does have to be translated onto film versus when you're doing a form, there's a little bit less translation that needs to happen.
Definitely. And to culminate all this, most recently you have your short film Mask, which has garnered a few awards. How does that feel? How does it feel to finally like get some recognition and have a project be so, well taken in?
It feels great. I've this is my third short film that I've finished and put out in the world. The other two were action pieces. So with Mask, the newest one that you said that just won the grand prize at the Marino Ray Film Festival and a few different others. It's a drama piece. There's a small little bit of action, but not really. The whole thing is really just about this combat veteran who is suffering from severe PTSD, and it's really just his journey of fighting against his ideations of suicide, and to get some kind of validation for this very personal. I'm not a veteran, but I still find it to be a personal story to me, just because my mother suffers from PTSD. She was a veteran. She wasn't a combat veteran, but PTSD is kind of a catch-all term for a lot of different things. It's not just for something like combat, which people usually think of, but it could also be for a car crash. It could be for any kind of trauma that you deal with in your life, right? But with her, it did stem from the military, but it wasn't from combat. But at the same time, a lot of the symptoms are very similar. And so, and also working in the stunt industry and film industry for a long time, I've worked with a lot of veterans, and I've talked to them about their experiences and obviously with whatever research that came with writing and directing this piece and performing the piece as well. So for me, it was just very satisfying to have a drama piece, not just my action pieces, which have also done very well in festivals, to come out, and it gave me a little bit more confidence moving forward to say that I do have a voice that people listen to, and that when it comes to these kind of topics, I don't have to feel as nervous, I guess, to think that, oh, maybe I'm not going to do it justice, or I'm not going to be able to handle this kind of content without in a respectful way. And that's really what I just wanted to do with this. I wanted to just make sure that I treated it in a respectful way, and that I urged the audience members who have seen it to take mental health seriously, and to really see that there are a lot of silent sufferers out there that could really use support, even if maybe they don't seem like they do sometimes.
Definitely. And with this confidence and your background, what are you taking away going forward into projects like Simulation, which I read you have coming up, and Shadow Force?
Mm-hmm. Well, Shadow Force, we shot that already. I was a stunt double for an awesome actor, Yosin An. That movie is going to be coming out, I think maybe next year. I'm not really sure when. But that was a really fun project. It's Kerry Washington and Omar Sy in it, directed by Joe Carnahan. It was an amazing experience out in Colombia for 2 months. But that was a lot of fun, but that was my stunt hat that I was wearing that whole time, and that's a very technical kind of position to be in, right? It is performance, but at the same time, it is more me performing as another person, right? I'm not performing as myself. So that was its own kind of challenge, a little bit separate from all this. But then with my movie Simulation that I'm shooting this year, I'm going to be directing and starring in it. I'm going to take the lessons that I've learned from all of my short films, not just Mask, but also Nothing is Sacred, and also Pawns, which have done, like I said, they've done well as well. So, there's a lot of technicality to the directing side of it, of which kind of lenses to use, which kind of lighting to use, how to tell the story. I used the drama that I learned how to write on both of those, and the suspense from building all those to in writing of simulation, which has done very well internationally with screenwriting competitions. So now that I'm kind of finished, like really solidifying the screenplay to be as tight and as good as it can be, now with the execution of it, I'm going to take all the lessons that I learned in all the other films that I've done, and use those. And then also with my performance as the lead actor in the film as well. It's not an action film or anything. It's going to be a lot of drama. Just me, another person in the character. It's a very intimate setting of a movie. It all takes place in one location. I'm going to try to use that, all of the skills that I learned and the performances and all these different things to really culminate it into hopefully my masterpiece so far, if that makes sense. I'm really hope this will be my first feature film. I'm really excited that I'm going to take this huge step, because it is a big step going from short films to feature films. And at the very least, it'll be a great learning experience, and then it'll be a piece of art that I can hold and call my own.
That is awesome. You definitely seem like you have the discipline and the passion to do this. Congratulations on the success you've had so far, and I can't wait to see what happens when you do step into the full feature film.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah.